spreading bubbles across the ocean. Investors could buy shares in such trading companies and share in the profits. Functionally, this was the very genius of the stock markets, which inevitably led to a speculative surge. But that financial orgasm only occurred after the British government sold off its shares in the state-owned South Sea Company to finance its war debts with low interest rates and easy financing for investors. But that financial orgasm only occurred after the British government sold off its shares in the state-owned South Sea Company to finance its war debts with low interest rates and easy financing for investors. By mid-1720, the South Sea bubble was ready to pop. South Sea shares had gone from 110 to 960, or 8.7 times in less than 2 years. Then they collapsed 94% within a year, as you can see in picture 62. This is also another example of bubbles collapsing back to where they started, or a bit lower. The story of the Mississippi land bubble in France in figure 63 was even more telling, but it saw the first bubble fully induced by a central bank and its government. John Law had ascended to the top levels of finance in France after Louis XVI's long wars that had nearly bankrupted the country. He conceived the idea of having the Bank of France raise the money by selling shares in French-owned land in Mississippi and Louisiana to pay off his debt. To do this, Law created the first central bank that could create money by loaning artificially created funding against such speculative purchases in what turned out to be largely swampland in America. To do this, Law created the first central bank that could create money by loaning artificially created funds against such speculative purchases in what turned out to be largely swamp inland in America. The interest rates were low and government guaranteed. Is that an echo? To do this, the Law created the first central bank that could create money by loaning artificially created funds against such speculative purchases in what turned out to be largely swampland in America. The interest rates were low and government guaranteed. John Law had ascended to the top levels of finance in France after Louis XVI's long war that had nearly bankrupted the country. He conceived the idea of having the Bank of France raise the money by selling shares in French-owned land in Mississippi and Louisiana to pay off his debt. The result was like the South Sea, intoxicating fervor and devastating burst. Intoxicating fervor and devastating fervor. The Mississippi Land fervor was so much worse than the one Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac produced into 2007 and 2008. Because the land being sold in North America was nearly worthless at the time, and so far away no one knew otherwise. To the investors, it all sounded like a bright new future of things, and the government was recommending it and providing low-cost financing. Of course, the Mississippi bubble collapsed just as the South Sea bubble and Mississippi bubble collapsed just as the South Sea bubble had. And a long-term economic slowdown followed, with lower stock prices into the late 1700s. These twin bubbles exploded into 1720 from the low-cost interest rates, encouraging speculation, courtesy of governments. They then burst, losing more than 90% into 1722. A depression followed, and stocks went essentially nowhere. 1787, that's 67 years. Only when the Industrial Revolution, along with free market capitalism and the American Revolution, democracy took center stage, did the momentum change. The bigger the burst, the greater the innovations it swung. The bigger the burst. In the greatest Big Bang in economic history since the agricultural revolution 10,000 years before, stocks and the economy blasted to the moon. Until the next great bubble peaked and burst. It showed the first and most rapidly growing American Midwest. It showed the first and most rapidly growing American Midwest.